Yo, what up, everybody? It's your boy Fitzmonk TV here, aka GLauren33, and I'm here with a cool video for you guys today. It's officially Avengers Endgame week. The movie comes out in just a couple days, so make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. I'll be having vlogs, reviews, a lot of videos regarding Avengers Endgame will be on the channel this week. And to get the week started, I wanted to do something pretty cool. I've never done this before, and I waited till Avengers Endgame to do this. This is pre-Endgame, remember that. These are all of the 21 MCU films ranked personally by me. This is opinion based, so you guys are free to disagree. Let's talk about it in the comments section down below. I will probably update this list once Endgame comes out and Spider-Man Far From Home comes out this summer. Alright, so there'll definitely be changes made to this, but this is the way I have all the Marvel movies ranked right now. And the thing about it is, this is, kind of updated because during the last month I've been rewatching every single Marvel movie part that was part of the Infinity Saga, so I have a large refresher on all these movies. So definitely, this goes along with my current views. But without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the list. So at number 21, I have Thor: The Dark World. In my opinion, the worst of all the MCU films. And to be honest, the reason why I don't like this movie, and Thor, the first movie, will be a little bit up on this list. The reason why I didn't like it is because they tried too much with the character, in my opinion. Alright? One thing that made the MCU so good at its beginning, when we were getting introduced to all these characters, was that it was realistic. You could kind of see this happening in the modern day world. And then when you go pan over to Asgard, yes, it is a fictional country, fictional place, but still, it just felt way too methodical for my eyes. And then with the way the Thor character was done, I'm not gonna say I didn't like the character, but if you compare Thor Ragnarok and the first two Thor movies, the character is completely different in Thor Ragnarok, and the character in Thor Ragnarok was 1,000 times better. They tried to make the Thor character in the first two movies way too close to the comic book character. I feel like that was a mistake. If they had allowed Chris Hemsworth to be a little more open with the character at first, this movie would be much higher on the list. Those are my main two problems with this movie. And I hated Malekith, alright? He was a terrible villain. Awful. Number 20, The Incredible Hulk. And they tried really hard with this film, but I feel like if you had Mark Ruffalo, and I know some people like Edward Norton's portrayal of the Hulk, but if you had Mark Ruffalo be the Hulk for this movie, this movie would be higher on the list. All right, I feel like they just didn't understand where they wanted to go with the Hulk franchise at that point, and it's probably the main reason why they haven't done another Hulk movie since, is because this was the early days of the MCU, following how good Iron Man was. They just tried too hard to top that with the Incredible Hulk, and it fell flat on its face, to be honest. The action is good, but the story, the way everything's tied together, fans just didn't like that, and I didn't like that either. And I felt like, Mark Ruffalo coming in and taking over the Hulk role made the franchise that much better. And, maybe one day we'll get a Hulk movie with Mark Ruffalo starring in it, but who knows. But, for the Incredible Hulk, I'm sorry, it just didn't do it for me. At number 19, Thor. Alright, the first Thor movie. And it's this low mainly for the first two, mainly for the same reasons that Thor: The Dark World is last on this list, really. Alright, the only reason why I have Thor number 19 a little bit higher is because it was more of an introduction to the Thor characters, and Thor: The Dark World, we already knew most of those characters going into that movie, and they didn't really improve those characters that much. Alright, so if they had gone with the Thor Ragnarok approach, once again, I keep saying that, if they went with that approach to these first two movies, the Thor franchise would be maybe the best franchise in all the MCU. But the first two movies were just not that good. Alright, I enjoyed Thor just a little bit more than Dark World because I didn't know who the Thor character was in the MCU at that time. Alright. Number 18, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Alright? And, you know, from here on out, from basically, I love almost all of the Marvel movies, except for, like, the low three that we just covered: Thor: The Dark World, Thor 1, and The Incredible Hulk. Alright, I liked Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but it's just nowhere close to as good as the first Guardians of the Galaxy or the other movies on this list. Really, we all knew it was going to be very tough for them to outdo themselves, to outdo what they did with the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. The best part of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, in my opinion, was Baby Groot. Alright, I didn't really like the story that much because they tried to have it where the Guardians of the Galaxy, the way they do in the MCU, the Guardians are best when they're all together, in my opinion. I don't like when they're all spread out in different parts of the galaxy doing their own little thing. Alright, they're best as one unit. Alright, and that was the best part of the movie for me, when they're all together at the end fighting Ego. And I couldn't stand Ego as a villain. I really did. I hated him. I felt like it was unnecessary to bring him in. I really didn't want to see them do that storyline where, you know, Star-Lord is looking for his family. Because, as Gamora said, I thought you already had your family. I feel like they could have gone a different direction with the story. Yondu, Baby Groot were the best parts of this movie for me. And, you know, it's more of a story issue for me. And hopefully they fix that with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which I believe they will. But, you know, it just wasn't as good as the other movies on this list. And, of course, I'm getting ads while I record. Perfect. Next up, 17, Iron Man 2. Alright? And anybody that knows me knows that I am the biggest fan of the Iron Man franchise. Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark is my favorite MCU character by far. If he dies in Endgame, I will probably cry in the theater. I don't know what I'm gonna do myself if Tony, you know, dies. I hope he survives. But my Iron Man 2, the reason why it's slow, because I'll let you guys know right now, Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 3 are much higher on this list. They're in the top 10. Alright. The reason why Iron Man 2 is low is because the story wasn't that good, because I didn't like the villains they used for this story. Also, there's not that much action in it. It's more about, you know, Tony dealing with, you know, being a superhero, dealing with Pepper, dealing with his father, dealing with his health issue, etc., etc., etc. There's so many storylines in this movie that it makes it hard for the movie to breathe. And, you know, when you have too many storylines causing conflict for the rest of your film, the film is not going to do that good. Also, as much as I love Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, she's one of my favorites in the MCU, her portrayal in this movie was not that good. And she said it. This was her first time playing the character in Iron Man 2. If they had gone maybe like the Captain America Winter Soldier route with Natasha's character in Iron Man 2 would have been a better movie. Alright, this movie does not stink at all. It doesn't. I just feel like the storylines could have been handled a lot better, and that would have made the movie higher up on the list. Next up, number 16, Ant-Man. Alright, and as I said, for most of these movies, they're all really good movies. It's just that they're just not top 10 movies in my opinion. I loved Ant-Man. Alright, when I first heard about them, I didn't know much about the character. There was a lot of people prejudging the character at first because they didn't really like the way Ant-Man was in the comics. Alright, and they felt like they were going to mess him up even more in the MCU. But the thing about it is, yes, this movie does have a very small sense of scale. And, you know, you can say it doesn't really matter as much to the bigger MCU. Well, we'll all see that in Endgame, and I'll talk about that in just a sec. But this movie, for what it was, it's a fun movie. Not every movie in the MCU has to be, oh, serious, the Earth's at risk, it's the end of the world. You don't have to do that with every single Marvel movie, because that's one of my problems with the Warner Bros, what they're doing over there at DC. They try to make every single movie too serious when it doesn't have to be that way. This is more just a fun superhero movie that the family can go enjoy, and they did a good job with it. Alright, I don't think it's as good as Ant-Man the Wasp, and I'll get into that in just a second, but you know, I like this movie for what it was. It's a good, fun film, and that I have, you know, near more the middle of this list. Number 15, Captain Marvel, right? This is the movie that just came out just a couple months ago. It's the movie that's coming out right before Endgame, or it's already out, alright? And to be honest, this is not a bad movie. It's not. When I first saw it, I loved it. Well, I'm not going to say I loved it. I really liked it. But when I went back to see it the second time and I paid more attention to some of the things in this movie, I kind of found myself not enjoying it as much the second time, all right? And this movie doesn't stink, all right? Brie Larson, I like her as Captain Marvel, all right? I just feel like they need to add a little more pizzazz to her character. Sometimes she could be a little bit bland, all right? Her character is pretty simple with the personality, but I feel like they should add a little bit more. I don't expect that to see that in Endgame, because if you guys have seen the articles, she recorded Avengers Endgame before she started working on her solo movie. So we're probably going to see more of the same Captain Marvel in Endgame. We probably won't see, any big changes to the character until we get to like a Captain Marvel sequel or whatever they have planned next for her. Because after Endgame, we're not going to see another Avengers movie for a while. All right. But still, it wasn't a bad movie. The action wasn't bad. She is a kind of a beast, especially in the final battle of the movie when she's going up against Ronan. But definitely, this isn't a bad movie. It could have been higher up on the list. It's more some of the character development for some of these characters in the movie. That's about it. Alright, the story's not even that bad. It's a pretty simple story at the end of the day. It's more about the character portrayals, and they're not terrible. It's just that they could have done better, in my opinion, and that would have made this movie higher on this list. Number 14, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I really enjoyed this movie. I saw this movie 3 times. I saw it once in 3D, once with a bunch of my friends. I also went to see it with my sister once, and she enjoyed it. All right, this is a very fun movie. It's very similar to the first Ant-Man. It's not as big when it comes to the greater MCU, other than the introduction of the quantum realm and how big that's going to be in Endgame. And I really love Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp. All right, I really love her portrayal. I hope we get more of her in Phase 4. I definitely think there needs to be a third Ant-Man movie, all right, just because Ant-Man and Wasp was so good in my opinion. The action, it's fun. It's one of the most fun Marvel movies you're going to see out there. It's not too serious. It's something you can sit down and enjoy. Very fun, very lighthearted, but it's enjoy. It's a fun movie to see. I love the characters. They brought back almost everybody. And definitely, Michael Pena, he's a beast. He's a beast. One of my favorite MCU characters. Hopefully, they do bring back Ant-Man and the Wasp for a third movie. All right, I don't know. That's going to probably be further down the line, depending on what happens in Endgame. But either way, this is a fun movie, all right? If you guys haven't seen it, or if you guys have, just, watch it again, and you'll realize how good this movie actually is. Number 13, Doctor Strange, alright? Doctor Strange. When this movie first came out, I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, because I'm not a big guy. I'm not a big fan of all this magical kind of stuff. This was supposed to introduce another side of the MCU, alright? The way this movie was promoted, it was open your mind, open yourself to reality. And I actually really enjoyed this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch, his performance, man, was absolutely incredible. I absolutely loved it. The cast of characters they chose for this movie were perfect. Wong, absolutely hilarious, and they continued that into Infinity War when we saw Doctor Strange and Wong together. But this is a very fun movie, all right? You might go into it with preconceived judgments about it, but really, if you just go in with an open mind, I'm willing to bet 9 times out of 10, you'll actually really enjoy this movie. It's really fun. It's really, how can I say, creative and artistic, and it's one of the most unique films in the MCU. All right, so definitely, I would definitely recommend you guys go see this film if you haven't yet. Number 12, Avengers: Age of Ultron. All right, this is the only Avengers film that I don't have in the top 10. All right, in my opinion, this was the worst of the 4 Avengers film, and I'm already saying that about Endgame because I already have like this preconceived notion that Endgame will be in my top 5, maybe top 3. Once I seen it in a couple of days. But this movie did not stink at all. All right, it didn't stink. All right, it just wasn't as good as the first Avengers movie or Infinity War. All right, I love having the original cast back together, and we know their story is gonna end in Endgame. part of the journey is the end, all that stuff they're doing. But definitely, I wasn't the biggest fan of Ultron. His portrayal was great. I just feel like they could have wrote him just a little bit better. All right, and then some of the storylines they could have gone into more, but they chose not to. All right, like Robert, Tony, and Steve. Basically, this is kind of where their setup to Civil War started. All right, but also, I would have loved to see a little bit more into the whole Black Widow Hulk romantic relationship. I was kind of shipping that when it first started, but then they kind of went away from that, and I didn't really. I wish they had it in a way, but this movie does stick. The final battle happening at Sokovia is very good. In my opinion, it's not as good as the Infinity War battle or the battle in New York in the first Avengers movie, but definitely it's a good movie. All right, it's just not as good as the other movies in the top 10. 11, Captain America, the first Avenger. All right, and I know there's gonna be some people that ask me why I don't have it in the top 10. I just don't like this movie as much as the other two Captain Americas or the movies in the top 10. This movie is really good. It's really good. It's a great introduction to Steve Rogers as Captain America. Chris Evans did a great job. I love Agent Carter in this, and we're probably gonna see Agent Carter in Endgame, and I'm still don't know how that's gonna be. But this movie, and at first, some people may not like how it takes place in the 1940s, but what they did is they did a good job, making the movie. How do I say it? They did a good job making I would say they did a good job making the 1940s work. All right, that's the best way I can put it. Really, it's a good movie. It really is. The action is intense. I'll never forget the ending where Captain America and Agent Carter are having that speech of how he promises to be there for the date. It's such a sad but such a great scene. One of the best in the entire MCU in my opinion. But this is it's a good movie. All right, it made a believer of the Captain America character for me, and I feel like it'll do the same for you. Number 10. All right, so now we are officially in the top 10. First off, we have Spider-Man: Homecoming. I absolutely love this film. I love I love the Stark suit. All right, I love the Stark suit that they have in this movie. And of course, I'm getting ads when I'm recording again, like usual. And also, one thing, you had Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Anytime you put RDJ in any Marvel film, that's definitely gonna get a thumbs up from me. This was a good what I loved about this movie, one of the best parts is the action is intense. I love it. It's fun. All right, that relationship you have between Tony Stark and Peter Parker, definitely one of my favorite relationships in the entire MCU. Plus, they didn't do all of that origin nonsense like how Peter gets bit by a spider. They didn't feel the need to do that, and that was one of the best parts, because if they had spent the whole first act of the movie focusing on how Peter got his powers, all that would have been that would have brought down my opinion of the movie a lot, because we've already seen that so many times in previous Spider-Man films. All right, Tom Holland's quickly becoming my favorite Spider-Man. He's getting close to that Tobey Maguire level. Right now he's number 2. So he keeps it up. We'll see what happens with Spider-Man: Far From Home. Tom Holland, he might be surpassing Tobey Maguire as my favorite Spider-Man here, but definitely a really great film. Number 9, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. We talked about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 already earlier, and I love Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. All right, all these characters, my favorite 2 characters of the Guardians are Gamora and Groot. I love adult Groot. He's just so funny and so charming in this movie, and even though this isn't the original lineup of the Guardians from the comics, but still, Dave Bautista, I've been a Bautista fan my entire life. For my wrestling fans out there, I love how he does as Drax, and I just love all the characters in this movie. I really do. It's fun, it's the intense, the final battle with Ronan, absolutely love it, and it sets up, the franchise for the future. Even though Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 wasn't that good in my opinion, I feel like they're gonna, right those wrongs with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. But definitely, if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, definitely go see it. It's incredible. I love it. Number 8, Iron Man 3. Alright, this was the first movie after the first Avengers movie. It was the first movie of Phase 2. And I loved Iron Man 3 because, first of all, I love Iron Man. I love RDJ. I think I've said that a lot. But definitely, they kind of, rewrote the wrongs that they did with Iron Man 2 in Iron Man 3. They let the characters have a space to breathe, which was one of my main problems with Iron Man 2. And, that final battle where Tony has all his suits going up against the Mandarin, love it. I also love how they let Gwen, I always say her name wrong, but I'll just say Pepper. I just love how they let her get in on the action, and hopefully they let that happen again in Endgame. But love this movie for so many reasons. Tony dealing with the fallout of the first Avengers movie, with the anxiety attacks and everything he's dealing with. I loved it. It was a great way, for the Iron Man franchise to end. This set up Iron Man just to focus on, the future movies like Age of Ultron, Civil War, Homecoming, and the last 2 Avengers films. Number 7, Thor Ragnarok. Alright, Thor Ragnarok. This movie was great. This did justice for the first 2, Thor movies. This was better than the first 2 Thor movies combined, alright? This was easily, in my opinion, Chris Hemsworth's best portrayal of Thor in the entire Marvel franchise. I enjoyed the action. It was funny as hell. I love Valkyrie. Tessa Thompson, in my opinion, if they do a Thor 4, they should definitely have her, have a bigger role. Alright, we know she's going to be in Endgame, but I loved everything they did. The battle scene between Thor and Hulk, one of my favorite fights in the entire MCU. Hela wasn't even that bad a villain. Alright, the way she was introduced by killing Thor's father, destroying the hammer, ripping out Thor's eye, everything. And also you had Korg and everything else. Love this film, alright? Definitely the best Thor film. And if they do a Thor 4 sometime in the future, definitely they should go the same route they did with this movie. Number 6, Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Alright, this is the second Captain America movie, and loved it. Alright, the action is so good in this movie, so good. We all know the famous bridge scene with Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and definitely this a lot of people consider this Scarlett Johansson's best performance in the MCU. It's not, in my opinion, but it's definitely up there. If if they had Scarlett Johansson act the way she did in this movie in Iron Man 2, Iron Man 2 would be higher on the list. But definitely a great movie. The way they incorporated like politics into a superhero movie, it all worked. It all worked, and it was incredible, right? The final battle happening in Washington, D.C. Also, the introduction to Falcon, and Nick Fury getting more of a main role in this movie. It's great. All right, definitely. If you guys have, it's not the best of the 3 Captain America films, but it's definitely up there. It's number 6 on my list for a reason. Now, as we enter into the top 5, right, the best Marvel movies in my opinion. Number 5, we have Iron Man 1. Alright, Iron Man 1, the movie that started it all. Because when the MCU first started, we didn't know what direction it was going to go. And we knew that the first movie was going to lay the groundwork and the foundation for what the MCU was going to become. And RDJ, we all know his problems and what happened in his past. And for him to come back and just make such a big splash with his first movie, it was freaking incredible, alright? The action for what it was, yes, the MCU has evolved so much when it comes to action, but still, for this being the first movie in the MCU, definitely incredible. RDJ's performance as Tony Stark was incredible. The introduction to the Iron Man character and how it was built, the way they did it with the cave scene and everything after that, incredible. There's not enough I could say about this movie, and it deserves to be in the top 5, and it's the reason why, mainly why, Iron Man's my favorite hero in the MCU. Number 4, we have the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, alright, and this was, such a big milestone for its time, and it was great. Bringing Iron Man and Captain America and Thor. There's a reason why you have to watch those movies before watching the first Avengers, because it gives you an introduction to most of these characters. We see Scarlett Johansson's Natasha Romanoff in Iron Man 2. We saw Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye in the first Thor movie. Alright, it's not like we've never seen those characters before at the beginning of this movie, because we kind of know who they are. And then Mark Ruffalo, his first appearance as the Hulk. Definitely, this film was great on so many levels. Alright, the character interaction. We all remember that famous scene between Tony and Steve, billionaire playboy philanthropist. You guys know the rest there. And then the final battle in New York, one of the best final battles in superhero history. Alright, I think they'll top that in Endgame, but still, man, everything about this movie just worked and clicked for me, and it's the reason why it's number 4 on the list. But it's not the best Avengers movie, in my opinion. Number 3, Captain America Civil War, the third Captain America movie. I don't consider this a Captain America movie. In my opinion, I consider Civil War Avengers 2.5. This felt like another Avengers movie to me, but it was more billed as a Captain America movie, because Civil War is a Avengers movie, but it takes place from the perspectives of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. Alright, more Steve Rogers than Tony Stark, since it is his film, but it in my eyes, it's more of an Avengers film. I love they brought so many characters, and it shows you how big the MCU really is, because they could have easily gone the direction of just making Captain America go up against some super soldiers, etc., etc. But instead, they brought all the Avengers together, alright, basically, and they made a Captain America story out of it. They brought one of the best comic book stories into the MCU, and it worked. It worked, alright? Not the final battle. The airport battle is maybe the best battle scene in all of the MCU. I have it higher. The airport battle scene, in my opinion, is just a slightly better than the original Avengers battle in New York. And the final battle between Tony, when Iron Man goes up against Captain America and the Winter Soldier, that scene's incredible. I love everything about this movie. Definitely, I'm probably going to rewatch it one more time for Endgame, just because you definitely need to see Civil War before you go see Endgame. It's actually pretty important that you see that movie. So definitely, united we stand, divided we fall. Great movie, Civil War. Number 2, we have Black Panther. Definitely, I knew right away that I knew the second I saw Black Panther, I knew it was going to be in my top 5. I didn't think it would be all the way this high, but I saw Black Panther once in theaters, and then I also saw it on Netflix, and definitely just watching it again made me just remember how much I absolutely love this movie. The cast of characters, Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, incredible. I still catch myself trying to pull off that Wakandan accent, and also Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger, man, incredible. One of the best, other than Thanos. Killmonger was the best villain we've seen in the MCU by far, in my opinion, alright? And I know Loki fans might get mad at me, but, in my opinion, Killmonger is the second best villain we've seen in the MCU so far. I'm hoping, when they do the Black Panther sequel in a couple years, I hope some way, I know Killmonger died, but hopefully they could bring him back somehow, because I was really mad when they killed him, because I feel like they could have done more with the character, just because the character was so good. And hopefully somehow Michael B. Jordan comes back for Black Panther 2. I don't know how they would do it, but still, the entire cast of characters, Okoye, Shuri, M'Baku, Captain Ross, Agent, the list goes on and on. The cast for this was just great. Absolutely loved it for what it was, and it was such a cultural movement when this movie came out, and definitely it changed the game when it came to superhero movies. But last but not least, Avengers Infinity War comes at number 1. Alright, the best film in the MCU by far. I think Endgame has a chance to surpass it, but it's going to be very difficult. First of all, Josh Brolin as Thanos was incredible. At first, I didn't know what to think, because we all know Thanos from the comics. But, the way Josh Brolin did this character. And remember, this character had been hyped for 6 years. Alright, when we first seen him appear at the end of the first Avengers movie. Alright, we waited 6 years to see how Josh Brolin was going to do as Thanos, and he does an incredible job. Avengers Infinity War is Thanos' story. Alright, Endgame will be more focused on the 6 original Avengers, but you know, Infinity War was more about Thanos than anything else. It's his movie. And the Avengers, in a way, are more of the supporting cast. But still, you know, RTJ killed it as Iron Man, bringing all these characters together. The interactions we see, like with the Guardians interacting with Tony and Peter and Doctor Strange and Thor, and you know, the final battle in Wakanda and the final battle on Titan, how they panned, and you know, they kept transitioning between those two battles. Absolutely epic. And we all remember the ending, the snap, the decimation as is. We all know where we were when we first saw the snap occur. You know, Tony talking to Peter. Peter goes, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. You know, T'Challa fading the dust. Bucky fading the dust. The ending of the movie with Thanos, you know, sitting in the garden with the sad violin music playing. It's incredible, alright? It's incredible. There's not enough things I could say about Infinity War. And I'm definitely going to rewatch it one more time. Probably the day I go to see Endgame, I'll definitely watch Infinity War. So definitely the two movies you need to see before Endgame, Civil War and Infinity War. But yeah, other than that, that's about it. That's my list of the all 21 MCU films ranked from worst to best. Definitely tell me guys what you guys think in the comment section down below. You guys are free to disagree. Remember, this is my opinion. Alright, and I'll definitely update this list once Endgame and Spider-Man Far From Home come out. You know, I expect Endgame to be in my top 5 and not the top 3. You know, and then Spider-Man Far From Home, we'll see where it goes from that. Once again, man, let's pray that Tony doesn't die. If Iron Man dies, I don't know what I'm going to do to myself. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.